So first of all, this is a welcome. I'm Rob Davis. I know 99% of you in the room, and this is welcome to all, not only the faculty and staff from the College of Engineering and Applied Science, but I also see that several of our friends from across campus are here as well. This event kicks off the academic review and planning, which our 6 departments in our college are undertaking this year, and we'll hear a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. I want to introduce Russ Moore, who's serving as Interim Provost, and he has a word or two of welcome as well.
I'll try without the microphone. So anyway, it's great to be here, and this is an important process that we're embarking on. So the Academic Review Planning Advisory Committee is actually a new format for program review. So probably that now that you're in, I think, the 3rd cycle of this is the first time you will have engaged this format. It's a higher level review format. I think most of the people who have gone through it already have liked it. Not always at the beginning, so I'll warn you about that. But it's intended to be a high level review, and the big difference between this process and the process as it was originally conducted is there's intended to be a tighter linkage to the budgeting process on campus. So that had been a standard complaint about the old-time program reviews. So it's comprehensive, it's a very open review process, very consultative, so I encourage everyone to begin engaged in this process. And also a key element of this is that this program review process is also tightly linked to our strategic planning process and your own college strategic planning. So hopefully this provides more coherence for you. I realize the first time you test drive anything, there tend to be hiccups or a level of discomfort, but hopefully you'll get into the rhythm of this. A good fraction of the campus has already gone through the process, so hopefully they can provide you some reassurance. I'll tell you who not to talk to. And in any case, I look forward to working with all of you and seeing the report that comes from this. Thanks, Rod.
Thank you. We're next going to hear from Bill Kaempfer. Bill's the Vice Provost and also a faculty member in economics, which I think is probably appropriate for this particular discussion. He's going to say a little bit more on behalf of Jeff Cox, the Associate Vice Provost for Vice Chancellor for Faculty Affairs, who's not able to be with us, but a little bit more about the process, and then I'll be back up in a few minutes. Thank you, Bill.
The program review process on the CU Boulder campus actually goes back at least 3 decades. We were, I think, forerunners in having this kind of comprehensive review process in place. This is actually, I think, the 5th time through the cycle, and Andre nods his head in agreement. So we've been through this process many times on program review, and yet about 5 years ago, the review process itself was subject to review and change, and the new process, which is academic review rather than program review, grew out of those revisions to the process. A lot of them were seemingly minor and fairly technical in terms of what happened. So for instance, the timing was stretched out a little bit to keep it from being quite as compact. It used to be we went through the whole process in a year. Now it's a year and a half before the whole process winds up. There used to be a full self-study that every unit would do. Now we have that focused on a series of specific questions that each unit answers as a part of their self-study. So there have been some technical changes of that nature, but there have been 2 fundamental changes to the process that I think have improved what already was a good process and really made it great. Those 2 fundamental changes. The first one is, instead of simply having literally random sets of units thrust together and reviewed in any year, we're now reviewing units that are consistent with each other. We're reviewing units by blocks on a year-by-year process. So that's why all of the engineering units are being reviewed simultaneously, as opposed to scattered throughout the 7-year cycle with one this year, one next year, and so on and so forth. One of the things that has caused to happen is it's kind of de-emphasized what was the what was called the internal review part of the process, where other units on campus, where a unit being reviewed in program review would have an internal review team consisting of people from around campus. Well, typically, when an engineering department was subject to program review, its internal review team would be heavily composed of people from other engineering departments. That we sort of lost the ability to do that now that we're looking at all of engineering at once. And so that's led to a de-emphasis of the internal review, the review by the rest of the campus that we used to have, and a greater emphasis on the external review, relying on our peers and colleagues from other universities to come in and look at our programs. So the first significant change has been this lumping together by cognate groups. This is our third year in this cycle. The first year, 2 years ago, we reviewed all of the arts and humanities units on campus. It was a big undertaking because there were 18 of them that we tried to do at once, as opposed to the 6 or 7 that we're doing now with engineering. Last year, we looked at the physical sciences, and we're actually finishing up that process now. So this is our third year in doing things as a group. One of the really positive outcomes that we've seen by proceeding in that direction is when we look at cognate units, similar units at the same time, there's much more consistency in what we find out. There's a far greater set of conclusions that's really meaningful that can be drawn when you take all of these units together. To give an example, when we did arts and humanities, over and over and over again, the RPAC committee heard about problems with funding graduate students. And we could see this in all the units. The problems differed slightly from unit to unit, but basically the funding of graduate students presented a real problem for arts and humanities units. We wouldn't have seen that nearly so well if we had been looking at, let's say, the philosophy department at the same time as mechanical engineering and law and math. But looking at philosophy and classics and Spanish and Portuguese, we began to see these patterns. So that's a real advantage of doing this. The first year clearly was graduate student funding that was the consistent problem throughout the units. The second cycle that we've gone through now, the second group, the natural sciences, I think we're going to reach the conclusion. We could tell this as we were talking to people last year, that the issue that we need to deal with that has primary importance is about space, and in particular teaching lab space in those disciplines. So we really find out a lot more and much more meaningful conclusions when we're doing something as a whole rather than piecemeal, randomly putting units together. Then the final thing that's new in this process, which Rob alluded to, is that we've designed it so there's now a direct tie-in into the budget process. What budget process, you might ask?
What budget?
We at least have the structure there so that at the end of the program review process, the academic review process, the RPAC committee will meet with the campus budget committee, the AABAC, and discuss the findings that they've reached and what are the real funding priorities that are coming out of this. And in a limited fashion, we were able to make some initial steps about graduate funding in the arts and humanities 2 years ago. And I'm sure we'll have very strong recommendations about lab space when it comes to the final conclusions from this year. So there is now a mandatory link from the academic review process into the budget process that will allow the strong conclusions that can now be made because of the consistent clumping of things that we're doing to have some budgetary impact at the end. So that's what's happening in the process now, and I think a long history of a very successful program review process has a bright future of really strengthening our programs even more.
Thank you. Okay. So this is going to be fairly interactive, and I'll be talking a little bit, but then I'll also be getting you talking and getting in groups. So start getting comfortable and ready for that, and you're not going to just sit and watch. Russ mentioned that the academic review and planning process feeds into campus and college strategic planning. So I want to talk a little bit about our strategic plan and give a little information on where we are relative to that strategic plan, because I think that'll provide some context for this exercise that we'll be undertaking this year. First of all, as you know, the campus put together Flagship 2030 about 2 years ago, and it's moved along not as fast as we'd hoped because of the budget. And at the same time, the college put together Engineering 2020 to look at where would we like to be in the next 10 or 12 years, how are we going to get there, and so forth. And in any strategic planning process, one at least should ask these 4 basic questions. First one is, where are we now? So doing an assessment or SWOT analysis of the college, and I'll say a little bit about that. Where would we like to be? So that's looking forward. What are our objectives and goals? Third is how we will get there. What are the initiatives we're going to undertake, the pathway that we'll take, really the tactical plan that we would make to meet those objectives and goals. And then the fourth question, which often isn't asked, or at least never answered, is how will we know if we arrived? How do we know if we got there? And that's an assessment. And in fact, the academic review and planning is a piece of that assessment, is again taking a look now 2 years into our strategic plan of how are we doing, have we met our metrics, where are we falling short, are there adjustments that we need to make at this point. Okay. So I have a few slides on each of these. I want to start with where are we now, and keep in mind that the now is actually 3 years ago, that we used 2007 as a baseline to take data in our college and compare to some of our peers. Bob, are you picking me up? Yes. Okay. So first of all, this table is a table that appears in our strategic plan, and it compares the College of Engineering and Applied Science to a peer group. And the peer group in particular are other public engineering colleges that are ranked like we are in the top between 20 and 40 among all engineering colleges in the country. Now we're in the lower part of that group. We're ranked in the mid-30s, and so this in some ways is an aspiration group that we would like to be like. And if you look at these numbers, almost immediately what you see is that we're smaller on average, that our faculty size is smaller, our undergraduate population is smaller, our graduate population, especially at the PhD level, is smaller, our master's program actually is larger, our amount of research funding is smaller, etc. And then on a per faculty basis, we're still a little bit small in terms of research dollars and a little bit small in terms of PhD students. We're a little bit long in terms of undergraduates, and so we have a somewhat higher student-faculty ratio than the peer group. There's a few more comments, and many of these comments are about the campus as a whole. Our state funding is near the bottom of the peer group. Our in-state tuition, at least at that time, was still lower than the average of the peer group, even though it's gone up quite a bit. In our college, the current building, not this Discovery Learning Center, this was opened in 2002, but the main engineering center was opened in 1966. Now, excuse me, when I go around and visit alums, talk about donations, most of these people are in their 70s, and they refer to the building as the new engineering center. But I don't think most of us would refer to it as very new. In fact, 45 years is about the age of building infrastructure when it starts needing new utilities and so forth. And so our building, we're continually putting Band-Aids together, as well as we've grown quite a bit since the time the building was built. A couple more comments is we have, in engineering, minorities are quite a bit underrepresented compared to the general population, and women are underrepresented compared to the general population as well. And then an important thing in Colorado is although the national growth of high school graduates is projected to be almost flat over the next 10 or 15 years, the Southwest is expected to grow, and Colorado is expected to grow quite a bit more than the rest of the country. A lot of it's in the Hispanic population. And so as we look to serve the needs of our state, we need to keep those demographics in mind. Okay? So that's a little background. Now, in terms of where would we like to be, our strategic plan was divided into people, places, and programs. And these are just a few of the prime objectives in each of those areas. For example, we do want to grow our overall enrollment somewhat similar to the state growing as a whole over the next 10 or 15 years. We'd like to grow our PhD program faster than the rest of our programs, to strengthen our research, to become more like our peer institutions. We'd like to grow our faculty a little bit faster than students to improve the student-faculty ratio. It's hard to do because there's an economic piece of that equation also. And we always want to move towards an improvement in quality and diversity of our student body. Okay. In terms of places, we did some analysis of the needs that our college has and also comparing our building size to our peers on a per faculty basis or per student basis or per research dollar basis, and concluded that we needed to expand our footprint by about 30% over the next decade or so, and I'll talk a little bit about how we're going about doing that. We also said we need to think about that this building's not going to last forever and that we need to begin planning for a new engineering complex. And then we also need to continue to improve the quality of our existing facilities and their utility. Okay. And then finally in programs, we believe very strongly in the importance of interdisciplinary programs, not only within our college, but across boundaries with the institutes and with the other schools and colleges on our campus. And you'll see a lot of that in our discussion in a few minutes. We also feel like that we need to play a larger role in an institute, that our campus has sort of the unique features of having a dozen or so research institutes. Many of them, like CEAS, are very science-oriented. There's a few engineering faculty in those institutes. But until RACI, the New Energy Institute, there was no institute that had a large number of engineering faculty. And so we want to get more involved in the institute structure. And then we want to increase our research funding, and I'll say a little bit about where we are now. And we also believe very strongly in the importance of personalized learning and in team-based design. And that fits in well with the campus flagship 2030 plan. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at progress in each of these areas. People, places, programs. I have one slide in each area that has a table with a little bit of information, and then we're going to have some small group discussion. So these are a lot of data to digest, so I'll give just the highlights here. The top row tracks the undergraduate population over the last 3 years. We have grown, and grown slowly like we projected to do so. We didn't quite reach the number that we had as a goal for this fall. Overall, the campus is down a couple percent at the undergraduate level this year compared to last. Our college is down about 1%. Mary Steiner and I actually looked at the data a little more carefully this morning, and we think we're down mostly because of a change in how BSMS students are accounted for. That about 50 of our BSMS students that last year were considered bachelors now are considered masters. Okay? So we're actually pretty flat in terms of undergraduates. The graduate program has exceeded our goals very rapidly. The number of MS students has gone up about 30% in just 3 years, way above not only our 2010 goal, but our ultimate 2020 goal. PhD students have gone up like we planned from about 500 to about 600, and so we've already exceeded our 2010 goal and well on the way to the 2020 goal. In terms of minorities and women, made a little bit of progress. You'll see the numbers are creeping upward, nowhere near what we would look for in terms of parity with the general population. We don't have the official numbers for the fall freshmen, but our estimates is that we'll have about 12% underrepresented minorities. That compares to typically 7 or 8%. So we've made substantial progress this year, and we'll have about 24% women, which is a little bit above where we've been. So we're making some progress, but have a long way to go in those areas. Okay, a few other things. You were mentioning the importance of graduate support. We, as part of our strategic plan, said let's have more centralized support for graduate students from the dean's office in terms of fellowships at $5,000 a year and graduate assistantships where the dean's office would pay half of an assistantship and then the department would match. We did reach our goal of 50 fellowships this year, halfway towards our longer term goal. We're not quite as far along as we'd like to be on dean's assistantships, but that's a program that is growing. This line stands for full-time, not tender-loving faculty, but tenure line faculty, okay? And these are the folks that are rostered in our college we have about 10 more that are rostered in the graduate school in one of the institutes. And we did make good progress in growth from head count of 156 3 years ago to 174 last year. The growth was stunted somewhat after last year because of some budget cuts, where part of our cuts were giving up a few of the retirement lines. And so we weren't quite able to make our goal here, but I think nevertheless we've made remarkable progress given the economic constraints. Also, we wanted to grow our classified staff, and we've done that, and in fact we're slightly ahead of our goal, and have really had essentially no staff cuts as a result of the budget cuts. Okay. That was an area of importance. Okay, so now is the discussion questions, and what I'm going to ask you to do is don't turn around, turn sideways, and so talk to the 3 people, you and 2 other people that are in your row, so groups of 3 or maybe groups of 4, and you should be discussing these 2 questions. One of them is if our faculty size continues to remain flat, perhaps because of budget constraints, should we continue to grow our undergraduate population or not? And keep in mind that there's budget constraints, that if we decrease the size of the population, we probably have to raise tuition more to pay the bills. And then the second one has to do with the graduate assistantships and fellowships. Is that still a priority of our college? And if so, should we use the general funds of the college, or should we make it a very strong fundraising priority, or should we do both, or neither? Okay? So those are the 2 questions to discuss. And while you're discussing them, Joanne and Terry are going to pass out clickers, and each group will have 1 clicker. So one person will get the clicker, and that person should vote the consensus of the group. If the group doesn't agree, the person with the clicker has the power. Okay? So I'm going to give you just 5 minutes to do this. So discuss these 2 questions with the people next to you on the same row. And are we ready to vote? Okay, can we get everybody gathered back? Focus. Okay, so we're ready to vote on the first question, so you can push A, B, or C. And you need to turn it on if you haven't turned it on yet. It's at the bottom.
And are you going to be able to show the results in real time?
All right, there's a few more that need a vote, because we have about 30. Last call. We're going to stop at in 2 more seconds. Okay, let's stop. Somebody got in. Okay.
We weren't fast enough.
Okay, so there's sort of a winner here, and the winner is sort of the middle ground of keeping our undergraduate population approximately the size it is. Okay. All right. So now we're going to switch over and vote on question 2. And you don't get another 5 minutes to discuss. You were supposed to discuss question 2 already. So as soon as Joanne's ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So she's ready. Vote A, B, C, or D on question 2. All right, we're starting to stall out. We need you to vote.
We've got 6 more votes.
right, I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, and then we'll stop at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Whoa.
So it seems that it's still a priority to increase graduate student support any way we can. I'll make a comment on that. Historically, private giving has been for undergraduate scholarships, and graduate fellowships has not been a historic activity, let's say, among private fundraising. There are some schools that have started to break out of that mold. Stanford, for example, has had a very major graduate funding campaign from private sources. And so we'll be discussing that with the foundation. Okay.
Let me close this down.
Yes, thank you.
Just take me just a second to.
We're going to move on and talk a little bit about places, and I'll give you an update on where we stand there. You'll recall that our strategic goal was to increase by about 150,000 to 200,000 gross square feet. This whole engineering complex is about 650,000 gross square feet, so we're looking at a 25–30% increase to accommodate both the overcapacity or undercapacity that we currently have, as well as the projected growth in faculty and students and research. It's actually very good news, I think, on the progress that we've made despite the economy. First of all, those of you who go along Colorado Ave have seen the biotechnology building under construction. Its first phase is to be done in November 2011. That's the first 3 wings of the building, except for the teaching classrooms and labs. And then a 4th wing has just been started as well. The campus made a decision to finish the 4th wing also. It's scheduled to be done roughly February 2012, so a few months after the main building. And all of our chemical, or virtually all of our chemical and biological engineering department will move there. Our share of the building, it's really an integrated building, but we're roughly a third of that building. So that's about 60,000 or so assignable square feet, which is about 90 to 100,000 of gross square feet is the portion that we could account for engineering. And so that goes almost halfway or more towards our goal. In addition, really starting this semester, our college has been allocated, really with the help of Bill Kaempfer and Russ Moore, some space in the old Fleming Law Building. It's about a 5-minute walk if you have legs the length of mine. And so it's very doable in between classes. We have a number of offices and some student project space that we're getting ready to move into almost right away. And so that's going to help as well. Another thing that we've done, and Joanne and I have tracked some of the expenditures, is we have spent collectively about $1 million a year for the last 8 years on renovating the current building. Some of these funds have come from the Vice Provost's office for research infrastructure. Some have come from the college capital fund, and then the departments have put in money as well. And so we continue to make the best possible use of this building as we can. And then in addition, there's a number of thoughts and ideas that we have that are a little bit further out. Computational facilities that would be shared are being planned for the East Campus and may be ready as soon as later this semester. And then much further out, we have planned a new aerospace and energy systems building. We're talking about expanding the integrated teaching and learning laboratory, which is now over capacity, as well as this concept of a new engineering center, which possibly would be on East Campus, because there's not very much room to grow on the main campus. Okay. To give a little perspective, that since the building was built, that we're currently occupied some 45 years ago, our undergraduate population has doubled from about 1,600 to 3,100. Our graduate population has quadrupled. In fact, I think I wrote this last week, and we got the numbers today for this fall. I think we've now quintupled since 45 years ago in terms of the size of our graduate population. So that just gives you a little bit of perspective on this building. So just a single discussion question. This time, turn around people front and back. So one in this row, talk to 2 in the row behind. That kind of strategy. Maybe somebody else take the clicker. So 1 clicker per group. And a single question, and that is, as we look to future growth for our college, should we be looking at building on East Campus or upgrading the current engineering center, or some combination of both of those two opportunities? Okay. So grab a new group and go through it, and I'll give you 3.5 minutes. Let's gather back, and we're ready to vote on this question. So you can now vote. All right, we're slowing down. Any more? All right, 5-second warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop the vote. Okay. So that's interesting. So some of each. Okay. Let's go on to programs. Okay. So again, a table with a lot of information. What I put up here is monetary information, and clearly programs are not all about money, but programs do cost money, so I wanted to tell you a little bit about some things. First of all, research awards, both at our college and campus as a whole, have gone very well the last few years. So when we wrote the strategic plan, we were at $40 million in research dollars that came in through our college. Our goal was to get to $50 million by this year, that just ended, and then to $80 million by 2020, and we're well on that way. We had a big jump 2 years ago from 43 to 58 million, and then went up yet further to 66 million. So that's really a congratulations to all the faculty for the hard work you've done, and the staff for the support you've providing those proposals. Part of the funding was AARA funding. Marty, 12, 14 million, or do you know the number? Yeah, so we will be, this coming year will be a real challenge to stay at the same level that we've been the last year or two because of the lack of stimulus money at the federal level that's now going away. Private fundraising has been fairly consistent, which in a sense is good news because of the economy. It's very, very difficult to raise funds. We've seen a drop campus-wide. We've seen a drop nationally in private fundraising. We've been at 5 million plus or minus $1 million for as long as I've been dean. Now, as and when we move into a capital campaign, we'll have ambitions to do quite a bit more, to raise more like 10 million a year. And that will require a lot of effort and some big projects like the biotech building and some of our other building projects. Our endowment, just the endowment that's within the engineering college through the CU Foundation, also dropped mostly because of market changes. There was about a 17% drop in the foundation's portfolio during the main year of the recession. Starting to build back up a little bit, and we hope to see that increase as well. But that is still well short of where we'd like to be in terms of having enough endowments for faculty support, for graduate student support, undergraduate support, and programmatic support as well. Now there's lots of initiatives that we've undertaken. I won't have time to go through them all. We'll have a little bit more time to talk during the question and answer or panel discussion session. Just to highlight a few, a lot of hands-on learning, active learning. Undergraduates involved in research, service learning, Earn Learn program. Brian has led a first-year task force this past year to look at not only enrollment management within the college, but also how can we provide a better experience for our first-year students, and that's continuing. We're looking at quite a number of new degrees. A Bachelor of Arts in Computer Science has been proposed. It's going to start going through the College Committee and also the Arts and Science College Committee, Curriculum Committee, because this is a degree that our Computer Science department would lead, but the students would matriculate in the College of Arts and Sciences. very similar to the applied math degree, where it's taught by a department in the Arts and Science College, but the students are matriculated in the engineering college. We've proposed a graduate program in architectural engineering to go along with the civil engineering graduate program. We are in the process of proposing a campus-wide material science and engineering PhD program. In front of the Regents this week or pretty soon is a PhD in telecommunications. We've had a 35-year history of a very successful master's degree in telecommunications. There's beginning talk of possibly an engineering education PhD, and then there's developments in particular certificates. Engineering for Developing Communities has been a very popular program led by Bernard Amadei. We have an engineering entrepreneurship program that started a couple of years ago. We do some joint work with the business college, and then our engineering management program helps lead that, and that's been very popular with the students. And we're just about to launch an engineering leadership program. And then at the graduate level, at the research level, we're involved in a number of initiatives: aerospace, biotech, computational science, material science, energy, and all of these initiatives are very interdisciplinary. They're by no means engineering specific. They're even not even science and engineering specific. They often have policy aspects, business aspects, social aspects to them as well. And so these are great opportunities for our college to participate with our partners across the campus. Okay, in terms of now, we have a couple more discussion questions. One is, among those areas that I've listed here, where do you think we have the most potential to be a national leader? Okay, and I'm not expecting a single answer here. Each group has to make a hard decision, but it'll be interesting to see what comes out. But these are some of the strengths of our college and campus. And then a more targeted question: when investing future resources, and I'm thinking of things like faculty line, new space, research infrastructural type investments, should we focus more in one area to become excellent in that area, or should we focus more broadly, or not focus, but spread the money more broadly and see what develops? Okay, so those are your two questions. I won't try and dictate how you form groups this time, but again, 3 or 4 people, 1 clicker per group, and we'll give you about 5 minutes. Okay? Okay, we've about stalled out, so 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. So why are they B, C, D, E instead of A, B, C, D? What does that mean? Is he not to be a bar? Did you think, I'm assuming these are just shifted by now, but do you know? Okay. Rob. Okay. Can we re-vote just? Okay. Do we have to change anything? Okay, so we're going to re-vote because there was something screwball about the BCDE instead of ABCD.
Well, we voted E on purpose because we think it's a bad question.
Did anybody intend to vote A? Because there was nothing in A.
Where did we get that to number 2?
Yeah, there were votes for
Yeah. So we'll redo. Yeah. So you can still vote E as a protest in certain circumstances. All right. So we vote on this first question. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stop. Oh, it's a record. All right, we finally got that vote in. Okay. All right, we're now going to, are you ready for one question? Okay. I don't understand what you're asking.
Okay, I'll get it about 15 minutes.
Are we ready? So we're going to vote on question 2 now. Okay. Not very hard, A or B. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cut. Okay. I like that.
The previous one, Terry.
Oh, somebody wanted to see that this is the previous
That's
one?
the previous one.
Okay. So before we turn the floor over to a panel and to questions and answers, I just want to make a couple comments on a faculty and staff survey that Terry Mays helped put together, and we got the results just this week. And can't go through all of it, but I want to comment on a couple things. First of all, one of the main questions that was asked was, what is your overall satisfaction with your position here at the college? And it was on a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 being high. And the faculty came in at an average of 3.7. The staff slightly higher at 3.9. Both of those numbers are higher than 3 years ago when we did the survey as a baseline, but higher by less than 1/10 of a point. So it's probably within the margin of uncertainty. But I'm glad to see that they didn't go down dramatically during the economics turn down. Very interesting, one of the questions was, what would be your priorities for investment? And there was like 7 choices, and the faculty and staff were unified with one of the answers, and that was both of them put as a high priority new buildings and facilities. Okay. After that, they diverged with the staff focusing more on undergraduate programs and on more staff as an investment need, and the faculty focusing on graduate programs and not more faculty, but more research support as being the particular need. Okay? So with that said, I'd like to call up the panel members. Brian Arbor was not able to join us. He had an illness in the family that he had to attend to out of state. But I think my other associate dean, Jackie, Marty, John Stevenson's here as Dean of the Graduate School. He's going to join us as well. And then Bill Kaempfer as Vice Provost, you met earlier. And let's grab a couple more chairs. And I'll ask each person to say a word or two, but then we really want to have an open question and answer about the college and about our interaction with the rest of the campus.
Bill, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, let me say that on many occasions in my career, I've been left speechless, but this is the first time I've been left hearingless.
Sorry about that.
Well, and I am, as Rob said, serving as Dean of the Graduate School right now. I'm also an English professor, and so it's gratifying to come over to the College of Engineering and see some technical snafus. I mean, it gives the rest of us a little bit of hope. Seriously, though, as Rob's numbers indicated, the graduate enrollments are on the uptick. There was a dramatic uptick this year, as you saw in your college, and as there will be announcements soon across the entire campus. Graduate enrollments are up substantially. across the board. And I think this is a really important development in terms of one of the campus's main strategic goals, which is, of course, increasing total graduate student population percentage to 20%. The efforts that all of us have been working on for some time have really begun to make a difference. And one thing that I think is interesting, you'll hear people say, oh, well, graduate enrollments have gone up because of the recession and bad economic times. In fact, graduate enrollments on campus have been going up steadily for over 5 years. And so I think there's something more at work than just local developments in the economy. I think that there really is a broader interest out there in graduate education and taking advantage of the graduate education opportunities here on the Boulder campus. Engineering is absolutely fundamental to what we can offer in the way of graduate education on campus. I think you are centrally important now and will be even more important in the future. And my role in this program review process is to look out for the interest of graduate education as the reviews go forward. And I look forward to working with you on that.
Yeah. Maybe adding to that, in many of the top engineering colleges that we consider our aspiration group, graduate enrollments are about a third of the college as a whole, so about 50% of the undergraduate number. And we're now approaching that in our college, and probably will grow a little bit more as well. Marty?
I'll just say a couple things. I'm the Associate Dean for Research, kind of I think as most of you know in the college, and I've been in this post for a year. It's an extremely exciting time to be in this position because kind of the college is in as dynamic of a state as I've seen it since I've been here. You kind of heard of all the progress that we've made with regard to kind of research funding, growing our research programs, growing our PhD programs, and to all of the faculty and staff in the college and the departments in the college, you know, I congratulate you and thank you for all of your kind of hard work to that end, and look forward to kind of trying to help support continuing to do that, and then trying to kind of overcome some of the challenges that success has left us with, that Rob also alluded to in terms of kind of tight quarters, kind of lower support than we'd like to see for kind of TAs and research support in general and so forth. And so, you know, I look forward to kind of helping kind of facilitate kind of continued growth and strengthening of our graduate programs and our research programs.
And I'm Jackie Sullivan. I'm the Associate Dean for Inclusive Excellence, and you saw Rob refer to some of our starting to move the needle on some of the diversity issues and broadening participation among our undergraduate population. I want to thank so many of you that serve on the Diversity Action Committee. It's truly wonderful that when we call on you, you answer the call, and it's really been great for our students, and I hope good for you. Our Gold Shirt engineering program, which we piloted first a year ago, is playing a marked role in broadening participation with respect to minority student participation in our college. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a performance enhancing year, kind of the academic equivalent of a red shirt program. And I will say it was Marty Dunn's brilliant epiphany one Friday night. The guy leads a really exciting life, as you can see. I think some of you know that we've supplanted our minority engineering and our women in engineering programs with the BOLD initiative. We've got a great team in place. We've filled the last of the BOLD positions. It's been a total shift in our approach. Rather than focusing on the needs of women special from the needs of minority students, we're really taking a broader approach and saying, what do we need to do to broaden participation in engineering and create global citizens and engineers that are prepared to operate in a global capacity. And we're doing that through focusing not just on women and on minority students, where we continue to have an intense focus, but on first-generation college-bound men and women from any background, as well as women and men from low-income backgrounds. So we're pleased to see the movement. We do expect to, I guess you saw the numbers today. I haven't seen them yet, so I can't wait to see those. I can't believe you have numbers I don't have. I think
I know the right people.
But I don't think we've seen anything yet. We have a 3-year goal of getting to 33% women and 17% students of color in our undergraduate first-year population, as well as dramatically improving retention and performance of those students. Our women already come in very, very well prepared and consistently over the last as many years as we have data, graduate with the highest academic credentials upon graduation. But we have a long way to go. We have a lot of work to do, and we appreciate your partnership in making it happen.
So it's now an open floor for questions and answers. Anything you'd like to discuss? Mike?
Yeah.
So I think this is primarily to Bill. Are we on? Given that we're a tuition-driven university at this point, if we wanted to maintain the undergraduate level roughly at the numbers we have now, given that vote, could we work with admissions and regents to differentiate and get more out-of-state students or international students in so that our tuition base would come up based on that? Or are we going to have to increase the numbers just to stay in business?
Well, I think that last year's flexibility legislation that came through the Colorado legislature has allowed us more flexibility in that dimension. What changed is how international students are treated in our constraints. We have two primary constraints that we face on enrollment. One is that the freshman class must be no more than 45% non-resident. And the other is that the entire student body on campus must be 2/3 resident, Colorado resident, and 1/3 non-resident. And you might think, well, how do those things mesh? How can you take in 45% of your freshman class being non-residents and overall on campus having 1/3 non-residents and 2/3 residents? Do we flunk out a lot of non-resident students or something like that? The answer is actually pretty simple. That when you add in transfers, which are far more resident, have a far greater resident composition than non-resident composition, and graduate students, who surprisingly enough are far more resident than non-resident. The reason for that among graduate students is graduate students have the ability, if they're U.S. residents, to change their state of residency to Colorado after 1 year. And so the whole average for the campus can be at a 2/3, 1/3 resident to non-resident rate relative to the 45-55% rate for the freshman class. Look at some place like the law school where a fairly large graduate student body is to begin with, even in the entering class, far more resident than most other graduate programs because of the nature of law. And then by their second and third year, they're all Colorado residents. So that in the law school, we only have about 15% of the graduate students being non-residents. So that's how we manage those two numbers. That's, I guess, a little bit of a digression there. What the recent legislation has done is, in order to allow us to pursue our campus goal of increased internationalization, it has let us remove international students from both the numerator and the denominator of the 2/3, 1/3 mix in particular. And that's really been the binding constraint that we've had to face. And by doing that, it kind of initially gives us the ability to fill in some U.S. resident, non-Colorado residents into the 2/3, 1/3 mix, and grow a little bit that way, and at the same time to be accepting more international students on campus. So both of those will allow for growth in high revenue students relative to low revenue students, if I could put it that way. So that's a promising development that with fairly small changes in undergraduate growth, we can have richer revenues.
Let me jump in just to add a few things that may also answer your question directly, Mike.
As opposed to my intro.
Yes, as opposed to this extraordinarily valuable overview.
Discourse.
As a result of the passage of the flexibility legislation that Bill was talking about, the Chancellor and the Senior Vice Chancellor put together a international student recruiting task force this summer that I'm a part of. And one of the pieces of marching orders that we got was that the number of international students on campus should increase within the decade to about 3,000 international students. To put that in perspective, last year we had a little over 1,200 international graduate students on campus. So we would be more than doubling the number of international students on campus with obviously substantial revenue implications. The College of Engineering and Applied Science is obviously a major player on campus in terms of attracting international students, for that matter, international faculty. Just look around the room here, right? But I think that this could have substantial implications for your college, Mike, as we move those numbers upward, because our own sense is that the international students that we would like to recruit at both the graduate and the undergraduate level will be looking to engineering as one of their prime, most desirable locations for them to pursue study on this campus.
Howard?
Speaking to the issue of where we want to be, quite literally, I would like to take issue with the notion that in terms of location and building resources, that the consideration be to, I'd like to speak to the issue of where we're going to be in terms of where the buildings will be and where people will be and how they'll interact. I just came back from Duke University, where I helped start the biomedical engineering department 40 years ago, and this was a commemoration of that department, which has become one of the most successful ones in the country. And one of the reasons is, and the entire engineering college there has thrived, is in part due to the interlacing of all of the departments there. Even the non-biomedical departments have kind of gotten into that game. One factor there has been the physical proximity of people. And if you start splitting people into different buildings, even this campus and East Campus or the law school, you add to the sort of nomadic tribe organization we seem to have. And there'll be even less interaction than there is now. So one of the objectives in terms of where you want to be is togetherness. And you want to put that into the
absolutely. And who do you want to be together with? Is it most important to be together with the other engineering departments or with science departments and issues like that? Yeah.
Hopefully everybody you can tolerate.
Yeah. Someone else? Ken?
Hi. Yeah, so I wonder if we grow our student population faster than we grow our faculty population, that impacts our ability to teach our undergraduate classes and the like. And as far as I know, the campus is not focusing on building new classroom space, and so we're being forced into either evening classes, weekend classes, and the like to meet demand. So is there anything that the college is planning to help address that situation? And related to that is also money for instructors so that we can fulfill the sections that we actually need.
Yeah, I'll say a little bit, then Bill might want to say more, but we are growing classroom space. So many of the new buildings, you know, the business building next door to us, the law building a little bit further south, have classrooms in them. The old law building has 6 or 7 classrooms that need a little renovation, but will be back online pretty soon. I don't know much about visual arts. Does it have classrooms?
It has a couple.
And Atlas has classrooms. The biotech building has a large auditorium and then 2 medium-sized classrooms as well as some fairly small classrooms. And so we are including classrooms in the new buildings. I think with that said, though, we probably will still see a little more use of summer session and a little more extension into evenings in terms of classes. In fact, one of the things that Brian has done is begun a conversation with arts and sciences about the scheduling of exams. So arts and sciences often schedules exams, you know, 4 times a semester on different nights of the week that precludes us from being able to offer a class those evenings. And we're trying to work in partnership with them to protect a couple evenings a week so that we could offer evening classes.
Well, one thing I would say is that over the last dozen years, the stock of our classroom stock, the number of centrally scheduled classrooms that we have on campus has perhaps surprisingly increased from about 150 to 180. So we've had a 20% increase in our number of, just physical number of classrooms in that period of time. And certainly we haven't had a 20% increase in student body in that period of time. So this was a very severe problem a dozen years ago, and there has been some relief in that period of time. The problems that we have right now include things like the wrong kinds of classrooms and the wrong size of classrooms. And it's something that requires constant attention.
Yeah. And to the second half of your question, I believe strongly in the value of instructional faculty. We've not cut any instructional faculty as part of our budget cuts. Several of the schools that I've visited, that's what they're doing. That it's hard to cut tenure line faculty, so they cut instructional faculty. But I think that hurts overall. Instructional faculty, first of all, teach more. They often teach very well. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. And I think it's a very synergistic partnership to keep the instructional faculty going. Also, we can self-fund a number of instructional faculty. If our tenure line faculty are successful in getting full-year sabbaticals, in being able to get a little bit of their salary on grants to buy out of teaching, then we can turn those funds around and hire instructional faculty, which I think will be good. Russ?
Yeah, there was another part of the question too. Maybe Bill, you could address it. The growth of faculty, both tenure track and instructional faculty, relative to the growth of students over the last 6 or 7 years.
Again, people are sometimes surprised by the numbers. In the last 5 years, the number of tenure and tenure track faculty on campus have increased between 12 and 13%. Again, way ahead of any increase in student body in that period of time. And while that's happened, there's also been an increase in the number of instructor rank faculty, a fairly substantial increase there, although I don't have the number off the top of my head. But we have seen, well, the result of that is the student-teacher ratio on this campus has improved significantly in the last 5 years. And people are sometimes surprised to hear that.
Juan?
Yeah, I had a question along those lines, which basically, your numbers were referenced to 2007. What would you guess we would be against your peer group in 2010? Would that, I mean, I know it's a guess, but you're probably ready to learn it.
Yeah, so we've improved in some of those metrics faster than the peer group would. Our PhD population has gone up 20% in that period of time. Our research funding has gone up about 60%. I think the peer groups have increased, but not by those numbers by any means. Yeah, we've competed very well in the campus as a whole for research funding, for example, in just the last couple of years. Russ?
Yeah, and I can speak to that a little bit. So I attended an AAU research officers meeting about 4 or 5 months ago, and this rapid growth appears to occur in engineering schools, for example, appears to occur amongst the elites. So I think that's a good sign.
We have time for a couple more, probably.
Hi, I was just wondering, along with all the targeted growth in student populations, if there's also a correlated growth in quality. You know, is there a quality target that we're trying to meet as well, as long with just the number growth?
So the short answer is yes. The long answer is I don't have this year's quality numbers, but we track metrics like the average ACT score, and in our college, over the last 3 years, that's gone up from just under 28 to just to about 29, and that's a very competitive number.
And math is 30.
And yeah, so it's like a math of 30 and an English of 28 probably is what gives the composite at 29. So that's something that we continue to follow. We won't go into this in great detail, but Jackie and her team are working very hard on a recruitment strategy that would lead to an increase in the number of applicants to our college, and hopefully an increase in the yield of the very top students. And so we're not just looking to increase diversity, but we're looking to increase quality at the same time.
Yeah, and I would answer that question, and I get asked that question a lot, and I'd say that our fall 2010 first years are the most talented in history, and I said the same in fall 2009, and I think those are true. So not only is quality holding, I think it's increasing. Yeah. By any kind of metric that we have to look at, the quality is increasing.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'd like to, my name is Christian Kaempfer from Arts and Sciences, representing the Academic Affairs Committee, which is in charge of oversight of the program review. Here is an idea that the arts and science people have from listening to Rick Parekh, and maybe the premise is wrong, which is that some parts of the campus are usually in the black, like arts and science, education, business, but other of the schools are not, like music, law, and engineering. Is the premise right? Two, is there something that can be done by especially a very aggressive, successful school to change that?
Bill, you want to answer that?
The premise is essentially correct. In general, undergraduate education subsidizes graduate education. On this campus, non-residents subsidize residents, and instruction subsidizes research, and those factors mean that we do have a pattern of a flow of funds across this campus, that certain sectors have higher than average costs and need subsidization, and other sectors are on the other side of that equation. It is just a fact, and I'll say this as a social scientist. It is just a fact of higher education that social science education is pretty cheap to deliver. Yeah. By and large, those students pay about the same tuition cost as engineering students pay. We have some minor differential pricing between disciplines, but some students go through the University of Colorado and have pretty low costs associated with earning their degrees. Some students have higher costs, and I think it's probably not consistent with the overall values that we have in higher education to be moving into a situation that every student is saying, well, I paid this much, you better be spending that much on my education, because I think that would be a disaster.
Yeah, I think this is sort of obvious, but the engineering students take half or at most 2/3 of their courses in engineering, and then take quite a number of courses in arts and science, sometimes business. We almost never see the reverse, where arts and science students come and take engineering courses for their electives. And so as a result, we tend to have somewhat smaller classes, a lot of labs, and so a higher expense per student.
I would just add that to be, as we want to be and are, a comprehensive university that's excellent across the board, you can't flatten out the landscape in that way. There are fields that require subsidy and fields that help the others along, and that's part of what makes us great, is that sense that we are in a cooperative enterprise, that the collective intellectual effort of the campus is greater than the sum of any one part, and I think that's a real strength of the campus.
So unless there's a burning question, I want to do a wrap-up with, we have a quick college rule change vote. So is there any burning question that we absolutely have to handle? Okay.
Do we get a vote?
You can articulate, but you cannot vote. About a month ago, I distributed a change in the college rules to be reviewed on a 30-day notice, and then now's the time to vote on them. Most of the changes were cosmetic, streamlining the rules, putting them in up to date with various campus policies and so forth. There was really one substantive issue, and it it relates to the question that we just had about quality. No matter how qualified our students are coming in on paper, some of them don't do all that well. And we traditionally in our college have had a 2.0 GPA as the demarcation of when a student is in good standing. And if a student drops below 2.0, they're given a warning. They're essentially put on probation. And if they don't improve within 2 semesters, then they can be put on suspension. The Administrative Council has reviewed and recommended that we raise that from 2 to 2.25. And hopefully that's a mark of quality. It's not a large number of students, but there could be 20 or 30 students or so a year that would be removed from our college. They possibly could get into another college on this campus or go somewhere else. Our hope is that we don't become smaller as a result, but that we are able to recruit, add some students to the top to replace those that are being removed from the bottom. And so that's the main substantive change in the rules. Is there any discussion? Jackie?
Yeah, I think that it's worthwhile to know that I think now we have 5 years of data from our first year survey. And I think it's alarming how few hours our students report that they studied their first semester here. And I think raising the GPA may incent delayed performance. I think that students might get incented a little early. So I think it's a good thing, and I think it would have no negative impact on any diversity issues.
Any other comments or discussion? Call for the vote? Yeah? Okay. By our rules, the faculty and the faculty are fairly broadly defined, are allowed to vote from the college, and so we'll just do a show of hands. All in favor? Yes? Any opposed? Okay. The vote passes. And with that, we're 5 minutes early, but hopefully there's food out there. We're going to have a reception. This is hosted by, Joanne has a quick comment. Oh, leave your clickers here and we'll pick them up. This is hosted by Faculty Affairs, but we'll also give a few announcements and introductions in a few minutes. She'll be doing a lot of the follow-up work in terms of building our college and building some of the diversity numbers. So welcome to Beth. Jessica Lannon. So Jessica is also new with the Bolt Center. She's the communications, events, and database guru or manager for the Bolt Center. So welcome to you. We're just getting started here. Angela Green, and I haven't met Angela. All right, Angela went home early. She's the Assistant Associate Dean, Jackie Sullivan, and probably is tired. So. Linda Rose, I saw Linda earlier. So Linda has been with the Mechanical Engineering Department for some time, and now she's taken over the position of Coordinator for Research Facilitation, working with Marty Dunn in the Dean's office. And she'll be helping many of you with grant administration and so forth. So welcome to Linda. Anna's here. Anna here. Okay, Anna's with the Mortensen Center. Rebecca Moss is not able to attend. She's with engineering management. My development staff were here earlier, but I don't see them now. So I'll introduce them later, but Julie Carpula is our new Senior Director of Development. She came to us over from Atlas in the journalism school. And then Amanda Grogan, many of you would have known as a student helper with our development efforts. She's now graduated and is a permanent member of the staff as well. So, and changed her last name. I think she got married or something. There's a number of faculty that are new, not as many as in some years, but still several. Mark Gordon in mechanical engineering. I haven't seen Mark today. Eric Fawcett in computer science. I haven't seen Aaron today. He was here. Is he still here? Okay. Joel Carr in chemical is not here. Uta Hirschfeld was here. She's still here. So she's now a research associate professor in electrical computer energy engineering. Has been a research associate for some time. I work with Al Krasesky. There's a couple more research professors, assistant research professors in chemical engineering, Chris Clarkson and Mike Yu, and I haven't seen any of them today. So we'll have another opportunity to welcome the new faculty. I did want to congratulate several faculty, 5 exactly, from our college that were selected recently to receive the Provost Awards, and these will be presented, I think, at Convocation next month. These are for either pre-tenure faculty that are coming up for promotion pretty soon, or associate professors that have been recently promoted. So Stephanie Bryant from Chemical and Biological Engineering, and I did see a little bit earlier. So Stephanie's still here. Lee Shang is out of town from PCEE. Rafael Piston, I've seen at one time, is here. Hans-Peter Shaw is out of town from aerospace, and then Jeff Thayer, I don't think I've seen from aerospace. So let's give them all hands. And then finally, I wanted to announce the Dean's Awards, and these are awards that come from the Dean's office, and they're based on the annual evaluations, who gets the highest evaluation in teaching and in research overall in our college as well. And so in teaching, Leland Giovanelli, so we're talking about the importance of instructional faculty, and Leland's a great example of a wonderful instructor that brings great benefit to our students in our college. So we're really glad to have you. And these awards include a $5,000 fund to be used in scholarly work or to improve your teaching or anything that's a universally legitimate expense. So you can't buy alcohol. Okay. Al Weimer was the Outstanding Research Award, and he was not able to come at the last minute. He's in chemical engineering. Michael Main I saw. So Mike, come forward. Mike's in our computer science department, and he's received the Professional Progress Award. It's also sometimes called the Most Improved Player Award, and it had to do with who got the highest change in their evaluation this year over the last year. So we really appreciate that you continue to serve our college well. So thanks very much. And then Ron Gui Yang, I haven't seen Ron Gui. Ron Gui's an assistant professor in mechanical engineering, and he's the outstanding junior faculty, so the pre-tenure faculty in terms of his award. So congratulations to all of you. I'm going to turn the floor over to Ken Anderson, who's going to give the staff recognition award for this month, and then we're done.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to recognize Leslie McDowell for her contributions both to our college. It's a pleasure to work with Leslie. She does so much for our department in terms of our undergraduate program. She's an undergraduate program advisor. She works tirelessly advising students. She comes to recruiting events. She goes up to arts and science recruiting fairs. The whole deal. So I really appreciate what you do, and I'm glad that we work together. Thank you.
So I said that this would be the last one. I actually do have one more. At yesterday's Regents meeting, it was made official, but Zoya, you need to come forward and be recognized. Zoya is our most recent distinguished professor in the college. I think that makes 4 employed.
That's the right thing to say.
And really just a very small fraction of 1% of faculty in the university are named distinguished professors. And despite the wealth of experience that Zoya has, her age is much below the median of the distinguished professors. So we're absolutely delighted that you'll serve us for many, many more years. Maybe not quite as many as Frank, but